Okay, we're recording.
Situation is MCP servers.
Mm-hmm.
I got to talk about the status of our code, the path moving forwards, as well as the agent gateway thing, which I think should be called hot potato to start with. Um,
Like,
just because of its first use case. Yeah, so I'll just launch into where I'm at, yeah?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, MCP servers. There is man, how do I even start with this? So this is what an MCP server looks like when you call it inside of our existing interface. So it can it knows what tools are available, and then when you tell it to call something, the call looks like this. It's just a tool call. These are the parameters of the tool call. You can edit what the call was and then run the call again, so you can modify the parameters. You can call up the debugs view of it, and in debug you can see what the args were that you sent in the tool call and the response that came back. So you can see the full data that got sent to the MCP server and what the server sent back. So it's sort of, in context, it just looks like any old tool call, but it's very, very easy and fluid to hook them up to existing agents, and there's a wide range of ecosystem tools that let you plug these things in and do stuff. So what I think is the best way to go is I rework Artifact not just as an MCP server, like I do that anyway, but the model I'm trying to wrangle with is, can I make it be a nested MCP server? Because nesting is supported by the MCP specification. The thing I'm trying to avoid is, like, I don't want to make a server with its own nuance and interfaces and all that, and then also an MCP server. I'd rather just make an MCP server and then nest it. And so what I was thinking is, basically you get like Artifact, and then inside of it you can call, the way I've come to think about an MCP server is that it's a pretty much, it's exactly the NAPS interface. Like it's nearly exactly what NAPS are in terms of the API.
What's the nearly bit? What's it? How does it differ?
It handles things like authentication, and it handles things that expect you to be not in blockchain land, whereas NAPS expect you to be in blockchain land and expect you to deal with things like auth externally.
Oh, okay, all right, but these are not fundamental. They're different flavors.
Yeah, and I think that it adds extra features that I haven't put into NAPS because I didn't have the time. But they're all. What's happening is that the MCP spec is being evolved based on market feedback for how people are using the LLMs. It so happens that that feels extraordinarily closely bound to the NAPS interface, because the NAPS interface was designed for that purpose too. And so far, there's really nothing, there's certainly no conflicts, and the MCP's been through like 5 major revisions, still no conflicts with NAPS, fits in perfectly. So so when I say nearly, it's like it's more like like some of the fancy features are a bit different. It's designed to be more like you can do things that let you call from the server into the client to do stuff. So there's a bit of leaning on the fact that it's meant to be a client server protocol rather than a peer protocol. But ultimately, it it fits very well. And so the way I've been thinking about MCP servers now is that an MCP server is equivalent to a repo plus a NAP, and it's the NAP. The NAP interface is the MCP interface, and the repo is the long-running context that the NAP executes within.
I don't know why, but that sounds very neat. That's good. Why do I like that? Because you're talking to a single service.
The pattern's always the same, and so inside of Artifact, how I've done it is that you make a call into a repo trying to invoke a NAP on that repo. That running NAP may cause invocations of other NAPs running on either the same repo or other repos. And so that pattern of calling feels like it matches the pattern of having multiple interconnected MCP servers. With the difference being that in the way that MCP is implemented now, that's quite heavy because each one is a standalone web service with auth and billing and payments and all that. But conceptually, it's exactly the same as arbitrarily deeply nested and peered MCP servers. And so we're just providing a very lightweight way of making an MCP server by way of a NAP. And we're saying that the NAP is a way to make a package, an MCP package. Because right now, the MCP servers, they don't have a package format. You can't bundle it up and be like, here is the MCP server. All you can do is you can call my MCP server using either the web, standard in, standard out, or that's your options. You can make a web call or a standard in, standard IO call.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that was the bit that threw me off initially because I was like, well, that's not what I want. I don't want a server. But when I look into it more, it's really just the protocol that is used that can be used between NAPs. And so a NAP can be presented as a packaged portable MCP server that you load up with this package and off it goes, like a Docker container.
Right, and by dint of that, forkable as well.
Presumably. Yeah, and it also means that it's also very efficient to nest them or call them or to compose them, because currently an MCP server being effectively the edge of a machine, like a web server or something running on your local machine, it's not easily composable with other things because it has become immovable by virtue of the hardware it sits on. But what we can offer with Artifact, because Artifact runs NAPs, we can run these in effect virtualized, containerized MCP servers. And so the MCP server that we present is extremely light, but the interface is identical to a traditional MCP server, which is also traditional to a NAPS interface. And so I think we can, I don't know exactly how, but we feel married to this thing.
It feels really good, which talks to one of the topics I raised in the text. Everyone go down the rabbit hole for
Sure.
5 minutes here. One of the...
And I got nothing but rabbit holes.
Yeah, lots of rabbits. One of the things is using when I was using the portal is the subtopic, which offered so much and it dashed my hopes. Because really, what I was wanting to do is to go down different threads of approaches on essentially the same thing. The thing being effectively a pretend repo because it was basically just uploaded docs.
Yeah, subtopics is not your friend actually.
It
There's a lot of rough edges on that design, eh? Like I'm starting to hit them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably reading too much into it because I thought it was like a fork and
Yeah,
merge
you
kind of
thought it
thing.
was what you wanted it to be, but actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
they
then
want, they want 3K for the commercial license for that thing, and I'm like, nah. So plus,
no.
I'm finding all these edges, and anyway, sorry, you were leading the rabbit hole charge.
They're. I don't think they're approaching the subtopic thing well enough.
Not nearly enough. Yeah,
Essentially, what
this
was. Sorry, go on.
go.
What I was trying to do was, okay, so I've set up the context of the prompt, right? So I've got my sysprompts, and here are a bunch of prompts which hones it into what I'm doing. Great. Now I want to explore 3 different ways of doing this, which is why I went to subtopics. Like, oh, right, oh, that could be good. But essentially what I was wanting to do is to, at that point in the thread, fork out 3 times, and then get them all in parallel, going down the different strategies that I was exploring, A, B, C, and then even at the fundamental level was like, right, okay, so C is the thing. Ideally, what I'd want to do is to take those 3 threads, then talk to a single NL interface and saying, right, I like this from this, pick a mix. I like that from that, I like that from that, I like this from this. Okay, now let's go with a single thread. The reason being is because I was in this discovery phase of I've got a task, I don't entirely know how to do it, I've got some ideas.
Yeah, the current interface is not at all designed for that. The current interface is designed for end user consumption, where at best you get to customize how the chats go. It's not, you're looking for an evaluation workbench, which we absolutely must have, but what's stalling me is I want to make sure that we can deliver that, and that's why I don't want to commit to just simply making our system fit the front end we have, because I'm not convinced that that'll easily give us the eval workbench style pattern as well as these many other patterns that we want in our system without a hell of a lot of pain. And so that's what the delay really is. I think I found something neat, composable, and modular. I just had to do quite a bit of poking around and test runs to make sure that it did actually work.
Yeah,
but
this was my just to test my understanding of it. The reason I give that example at this point is if an app plus a repo in MCP is transportable, duplicatable, forkable, therefore, then that pattern fits what, albeit it might be 6 months before we get there, but fits what I was trying to do there, which was, let's branch out 3 times or n times, and then pick and mix between these, and then merge the bits that were good.
Yeah, it does do what you say there, but I don't think that branching the MCP server is really what you want there. Yeah. I think that it does support that, but I don't think you're best served by that. The way that you're best served is by making an MCP server that is able to create chats or create assistants to use our current UI language. An assistant being a prompted, a NAP that has a natural language interface is an assistant. What you really want is an assistant that has a tool set running into it that is powered by a NAP, which is able to make new assistants and exercise them in turn. And so all that looks like is you're having a chat with the assistant maker, and then it's sort of define the parameters of your test run. You're like, okay, you want Grok for O3, O4 Mini, Claude 4, like Sonnet 4. Like, you pick a bunch of parameters, and then you're like, here's what I want to say in sequence. I want to say this, and then that, and then that, and then that. I want you to run it against all these bots, right?
Yes. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. So that's not forking the MCP server. That, like, I'm really sorry this is sloppy, but I want to start, with your permission, I would like to use the terms MCP server and NAP interchangeably as a means of just saying that
a surface, a natural language surface, which has
interface, a natural language interface. And it actually has helped me a lot to think about our system as an MCP server or servers. And so you'd be making an MCP server that can spin up other MCP servers and then interact with them or control them on your behalf. So you're sitting here chatting to the bot maker, and then the bot maker is calling out to the different ephemeral MCP servers that it made to exercise them, reconfigure them, rerun them, all that, reset the state. Oh, was that what you meant by forking? So you've like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So
you got your meta task, which is in your head.
Right. And then these ephemeral tasks are really just, you don't care about the failures, you just want to know when it passes a threshold type of thing. Yeah. So I think that describes exactly what you're doing, right? Yeah. And where I started to get to with that was that it suddenly occurred to me that the interface that we have, like this interface, should be presented as an MCP server so that an assistant can do anything that a human could do within it, but by way of a tool call. Like, you want to update the settings, cool, tool call. Import, export data, tool call. Log out, tool call. Like, that's when I started to think of the user interface as it's always going to be this huge bundle of crap if we don't make it tool callable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be hobbled because you're going to be left in kind of serial thing.
Yeah, and it's always like you're going to feel like you fell off the edge because no assistant knows what you're talking about when you talk about the settings. It's like, sorry, man, I don't know what you're talking about, but you're like, I'm looking right at it. I'm talking to you using this tool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But the real sort of avalanche thing for me was when you and I started talking about this repeatable UI concept where all of these buttons are really just a shortcut to opening a chat with a pre-positioned, pre-tooled assistant that's configured a particular way. It's got certain MCP servers / naps / tool calls that it can get hold of. It's got prompting. It's got some few shot examples. It's, all that. But I like that model a lot because I feel like that's fluid. Like that's how I as a human want to navigate. Like when I pick a button, it's a big context up. It's a lift and shift on the context. I want to carry it with me. I never want to end up in I'm alone. Like in this screen, the settings screen, I am alone. No AI is coming to help me. I must browse all of these options to find what I'm looking for, test it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Blinking cursor time.
Blinking cursor time, human thinking time. That's not what we're here for. So, bundling that up, the fact that I want to be able to actually context switch, carry some context, but start a chat, as well as all these other sort of fairly deeply nested things, like being able to use an MCP server to experiment with MCP servers that are being created on the fly, examined and torn down and reconfigured. Like that was never going to fit in this interface. I thought what we were going to have to do was to make it as a frame and you're just viewing inside of something deep that's happening. But it did bloody well bother me that we couldn't ever MCP into the interface itself, because I was like, that's actually fucking lame. And so if every button, like if settings is just going into a chat, then now we need this stuff MCP'd. And I was like, that was kind of how Artifact was made. Like Artifact was made to be self-aware. Like it can tool call. It can interrogate its own environment and be like, I am this. There's the boundaries. Everything a human can do in Artifact, a bot can do by way of tool call, because the only tools the human has is tool calls, and that's it. And so the conclusion that I got to, and that's kind of what I want to run by you and make sure I haven't missed a trick, is that I now want to think of the user interface. At the moment, it's got this big ass edge infrastructure serverless thing behind it with a database and an S3 store and some fucking OAuth creds, and I'm like, not where I thought I'd end up. But it works, right? So, what I started thinking of the UI as was more like a static page that knew how to make a call to one and only one MCP server. And that is Artifact. And so that the tricky part in the philosophy of the philosophical design of Artifact was always, who are you before you enter the blockchain? When you become the blockchain, that's easy. You're this thing. But before that, who are you? And how much should happen outside of the blockchain? Turns out a lot of things, because you got to read whole repos and stuff like that. But that was really what I felt was something over many iterations we got fairly right. But that was all just cast aside in this particular interface model, right? Because now you are definitely a client browsing a server-side app until you enter chat mode, where you get a glimpse into Artifact. But you're still not self-aware, because none of the tools can reach back out and touch you. They can't reflect upon themselves and figure out where they are. So, the way I think about the interface, this whole UI could be completely just a static page that loaded up from who cares where, and it makes a connection to the Artifact MCP server, but it's done, it could be done by an LLM in tool call fashion, but for the most part, it's done programmatically. So basically, what I mean by that is that just like how Artifact itself really consists of tool calls, I have, to get all the demonstrations that I've shown you, written little programs that do tool calls to get out the data they want, save it. When I was like, clone this repo. Clone this repo is a tool call, but I triggered it by pressing a button. And so that's how I view the interface now, is it just wraps an MCP server that is the highest MCP server. It's the MCP server that the hosting environment presents to you, the authenticated user. It's as high as the hosting environment will give you.
So that is the surface. That in conceptual terms, when you're talking to an MCP, and by dint of your correlation with NAPs, you're talking to a NAP. That is the surface you're talking to, and it knows about what it can do.
Yeah, and it knows what it can do.
Nested MCPs in order to do more and more complex work.
Yep.
Can also reach out to other SCPs that it knows about and that's allowed to.
Yep.
But that's your surface that you're talking to.
Correct. And an even more succinct way to say one of your points, I agreed with all of your points. I thought that one of them could be improved better, which is to say that when you first talk to it as the client, because it's at the top level, that's how you enter the blockchain. But just because your UI uses the features that it supplies, uses the MCP features that it supplies you to build up the base UI, like what repos have I got, what chats have I got, what options, what sidebar options have I got, all that. It's still an MCP server was the point I wanted to raise. And because it's an MCP server, it can be passed in. This arrow is going to look like a sinful arrow, but it can do that. Oh, God. So, like, it can be called from within a nested MCP server.
Okay, other than that, looks like one of these German sausages you really don't want to eat.
The Bratwurst.
So, what you're saying is your surface for talking to an NCP server may be devolved inside of the NCP server to a nested one?
I'm saying that from the outside, when you talk to Artifact, the hosting platform, you are talking to an MCP server. It is the highest level MCP server that the hosting platform will give to you. There's no more nesting. You're at the top level. And you use those commands to populate the UI to bring it alive and let you do stuff. But the point is that the interface is still an MCP server, which means that it can be called by anything like an LLM or an app running inside it. It can be called, the top level surface can be called by anything that can call an MCP server, which allows for this arrow, which allows for something running inside the system to probe the environment that it's within. So you can, as an app inside the system, probe the user's top level MCP thing to figure out who the user is, what settings have they got, how many repos have they got, what's the billing, what's the charge. My point is that because it's MCP all the way down, you can LLM it at any point, which you could not do with the current interface here. You could not LLM it at the top level. At the top level, it is a conventional app, and then it becomes chatty.
I love that architecture. I mean, it's inherently recursive.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I think that all our work on recursive computing has really allowed that to be quite easy from where we stand. Like there's this other element starting to come to the surface, which is the uniformity of the API. The MCP as a protocol is starting to appear like the server of the future. It's like the WebDAV, the NFS, the FTP. It's like that's the next iteration on it. And it's come out sloppy, it's come out mutable, it's got all these things, but it's the way it is by way of necessity, and no one's marketing really. Like there's no inherent market advantage to bend it one way or another. People just want it as a uniform way to connect. And it just so happens that because we were chasing a lot of the same properties that it gave, especially in terms of developer ergonomics and LLM ergonomics, so that the Alex or the LLM experience with this interface was what we sought, which was, these like very simple, expressive, basically JSON functions. And so that's why our model fits so neatly inside it, And if we bend a bit just to match them exactly, we lose nothing, but we gain a bunch of tools, and then we apply our hard-won lessons about, nesting, recursiveness, making LLMs all the way down, like making MCP servers all the way down, that suddenly pops up at the top. And it's
interesting enough, you can also embed the top turtle inside of another turtle, which allows DAOs. If a DAO, for example, was to be the entire platform.
Yeah, well, so I believe that's what my ugly arrow did, unless you mean something different.
No, I wasn't entirely sure what your ugly arrow
Fair enough. I mean, it was terribly ugly. But another example is that if you've got two, I'm not even going to try and draw letters here, because the issue is, you think I'm a retard, but what's happening is that there's lag on when my mouse position updates in VR. And so that's why my sausage overshot right there. So
drawing with crayons. Yeah.
Crayons with lag. That is unstable, jittery crayons. Like, good luck. So if you had two hosting services, one here, they cooperated using consensus to host an MCP server by way of consensus, because if an MCP server is just an app, we have talked at length about how to run an app on a repo in consensus. So MCP is effectively, this server is running in lockstep with this hosting environment down the bottom. That blockchained MCP server could reach into and control either of the hosting environments, because keep in mind, you can't lockstep the hosting environment because you've run out of virtual layers. You've hit tin. But that virtualized MCP server could be set up to do management on the redundancy of the hardware across different data centers, for example, which becomes part of that hyperconvergence patent that we filed.
Of course.
And so now you've got this MCP server that's chattable, does all these wonderful things, running in lockstep across multiple geographic regions, is now able to look inside of the physical hardware that it's running on and manipulate it to do the things it wants. And so this self-awareness thing, although it sounds trivial in nature, the ability to reflect upon the environment that the machine finds it in starts to really come into its own once you deal with things like consensus and lockstep, because now you can interrogate or distinguish between you can have an in-band representation of the different places that your program is physically running. You can probe them, question them, build up theories and stuff, and then act with consequence on each one.
Let me pause. And it's the same pattern all the way down.
Yep. It goes right up to the top where it hits metal. Can't go any higher. And then it's all the way down and all the way across.
That's nice. I love that. That is, there's something beautiful about that.
All right, cool. I'll take that as a vote of yes, let's do that. Okay, so that was the awkward part I wanted to explain to you. And so what that means for the user interface here is that it becomes a very, very dumb static layer where it immediately, the first thing and only thing it really does is it connects to that top level MCP service. And it genuinely comes in from the outside going in, and then inside of it, once the UI has hooked into, once it's plugged into this top level MCP server, then it uses that server to do things like make a new chat, talk to this MCP, create new repos, delete that repo, become this NAP. Like that's where the inside of each app. So when I'm inside of a chat, the chat itself won't be aware of the parent MCP environment unless you purposely hooked it up. So you'd make some assistants would be self-aware or self-accessible, and others would be not, right? And so the chats that are not, they have whatever other MCP servers you hooked up, and they just go about their business doing the best they can with whatever they can see in front of them. And so from their perspective, they run exactly the same as if they were in this non-reflective, non-self-aware or self-accessible interface. They would run, the chats would be identical. But if you give it the power to, it can reflect back into itself with tools that affect itself, like delete me, or give me all the credits, for example.
It can also presumably refer back up the chain. So, say if you've got an MCP and it goes, I can't do that. MCP that just asked me to do something.
Right.
Is there another way that you could get that sorted? Here's what I can do. And so it goes up as well as down.
Yep.
You can always refer back up and saying, hey, can you tell me what you can do, boss? Because I can't do this. And the boss goes, here's what I can do. It's like, with my specialized knowledge, have you tried doing this, this, and this? Which has nothing to do with me.
Yep. So I think that absolutely ticks all of the composability requirements that you've ever mentioned. I think it can be achieved with this MCP-based thing, which is really just NAPS-based. But by making it MCP, we also make the external interface back into Artifact is MCP2, and it just makes it much neater for self-awareness.
It does, and also it speaks to the conversation we had last time, where saying that each of these icons is translatable to a natural language prompt to a self-aware assistant that knows what it can do.
Yeah. In that area, right? Like you're talking like settings or like credits,
right.
or
it's like
all the background stuff, right? The backstage view.
And so in natural language, you can say, "Hey, can you set me up with this other service?" Because you don't even have to go down to that level. You can say, "I want to know what the weather's like," and it goes, "Okay, I know how to hook you up with a weather service."
Yeah. All right. So you sound like you're pretty much on board with that one.
Yeah, very much actually. We'll see how it goes, but I like repeatable patterns because
me too, buddy.
Simple is good.
Me too. Now
simple is hard.
Let me just try and run something here. So I set up a bunch of, I was just trying to familiarize myself with all the aspects of the protocol. It does have some confusing parts. I was like, where does that map to NAPS and all that? So it was a bit of a painful day, but I think I came out on top. I want to show you some stuff that I did, but I sort of forgot. I forgot how to get to it because I made like so many things. Website not loading, hours spent debugging the app. It was DNS. Okie dokie, so first things first, here is an example of a debugger for an inspector, really, for how to debug an MCP server. Which is all good fun, because if we're going to be making them, we kind of want to be able to inherit the tools that the world gives us, right? So
Yeah.
here is how you hook that up. MCP connect. Aha. And now this is a service that I set up using one of the example servers. I hosted it on Fly.io to emulate what it would be like to just convert Artifact into this system. And so here I can have this is my list of tools. So I go list tools, shows me the tools. And so what I was trying to get at here was that this is a standard interface, but I can make any MCP call that I like. And that's how we make it bridge the gap between being LLM driven and being a user interface that a human can get involved in. Right, so this is making calls out to the MCP server that are set up as the exposed thing. I felt like these things were cool, and then now that I'm sitting in front of you, I'm like, I think you kind of get it. Now I'm wasting your time.
No. If it's cool, I'd like to see.
Sure. Yeah. So this too was where I set up that exact same server here, so I can say things like I'll make a new chat, and I'll say list tools. It'll call the Fly server. Actually, sorry. I think it called the Fly server when I'd initially set it up. So this is what it looks like to set up, I guess. So this is super messy. It was like I came at this. It was like a whole wild sort of thing. So this is how it goes when you set it up. So I'll go Fly 3. The URL is this thing, and the auth, there's no auth because yellow. Test the connection. Yep, that works. And then what it's done is it's gone and probed the server for all the functions that it has, all the tool calls it has. So one of my favorite tool calls is Echo. It comes in with the context docs, like the description and when to call this tool and all this sort of thing. And then if you install it, now it's available to be added into the chats. So that's kind of how that goes, right? You can see it's actually super easy to configure. So I guess in terms of the implementation path, I was like, I could maybe I'm thinking the best way to implement it is we've got this platform working here. I should make Artifact be an MCP server, and then we'll start off by connecting to it in here. But that's really not going to give us much. That can give us files. So if you look at the inspector, you do have access to resources, which can be considered like files. Resource 1 is a text document. Resource 2 is a binary document. You can do things like subscribe to the file so you know when they changed. So remember how I had a big fucking song and dance about how difficult that was to get going in Artifact?
Yeah.
So this is part of the protocol, and I can implement it using what we already did for Artifact, and now we have subscribe, which is always fun. So the idea would be that when you come in to build a transclude up, in the background what's happening is that the MCP server is being hit for give me this resource, give me that resource, load file, read file, load file, blah, blah, blah. And then the UI is just displaying the results of the MCP tool calls that you made. And that's it. And then when you hit go, it knows that now that tool call has as parameters, like you would have first made the transclude, so now the transclude has a hash, and then you do the tool call to tell the LLM to begin inference, and you attach the transclude as this is what I want in the context.
Mm-hmm.
But the tool calls that are used to build the transclude are an MCP server, so we can make an assistant that can help you build the transclude up by like removing common files that don't mean anything, or compressing it down, and all those kinds of things. So yeah, that's how I thought that would go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll make the MCP server, hook it up to the chat to the platform I've got right now, and then immediately I think the best move is to switch to making our own interface. Again, fuck my life, but our own interface where we just have these buttons and they're just firing up an assistant that has MCP tools for a particular type of task, like a particular type of top level task, like stux, economy, people, all that. Because like I just can't see how we can get that from this interface. Like there's just like a sort of really hope that what I'm saying makes economic sense, in that like I think we really badly need that reflection ability at the top level. Am I mistaken?
No, absolutely not. Because it is itself in reflection. Recursion. It allows you to talk about other chats through surfacing through an NL interface, and it avoids that hunt and peck, which is the bane of
Oh
everyone's life.
yeah. So implementing say search for your chats inside the current platform, because the top level platform is not MCP compatible, that would require custom code. And
Yeah,
it drives me mad that I can't say this nicely, so I keep having to like claw at the edges. But because it's all MCP, you can put in deep research tools that can now like crawl over all the chats, because the chats are exposed as an MCP server internally.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's that. Yeah. Okay. So basically what you're saying is it is absolutely worth the sweat to make everything be an MCP server and then present as a live assistant and the context that you're talking about using a frame.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think that that's actually a big deal, because after spending a lot of time digging through this code base, what I want to do is actually just make a super brutal, very unpleasant looking user interface that just works with all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll put the polish on after. Like, I know you asked me what if it's a CLI, and I was like, oh, that wouldn't really work. But I think what you really asked is, can we just dump all the polish
Yeah.
and just,
Yeah.
So I found a couple of libraries that let me do that. So, because after spending some time with this interface, to be honest, I don't care for a lot of the features that it adds. It is very nice and pleasant to look at, but as soon as I want to renovate it to do something deep, like talk about my chats, so as soon as I want to do something meta, it's like wading through like code. And yeah, it's nice code and blah blah blah, but it's against the grain. Their upstream changes are going to crush mine all the time. But if all I'm doing is modifying the relationship between MCP servers, that feels like child's play.
And it has the benefit of Now, up to this point, we've really been talking about assistants, but if we look at an agent,
Mm-hmm.
it can raise its own stocks,
Right.
and then update its own capabilities based on resolution of those stocks.
Yep. An assistant could do that too, but yeah, I'm sorry to be difficult there, but an assistant could do that too.
Yeah, you're accurate. I'm just thinking about agents that go away and think about, hey, last time I talked to this other, I'm not sure if it's an AI or a human, but last time I talked to trying to do this and raise this stuff.
Well, I guess, Mr. Maxwell, we still don't have a good, clean way to describe an agent. I believe we feel what an agent is, and we feel it cleanly enough to build it. But one example of where an agentified MCP server could seem in stark contrast to how things are made right now is that, strictly speaking, this top level interface that I have right now to manage all of my affairs, I should be able to, if it's an agent that I have full control of, I would drop in and I would see this exact interface because that's what the agent sees.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at it from a UI perspective. It's looking at it from an API perspective, but the exact same thing is there. And so I would be able to, with a familiar interface, go through and see. I'm like, check its inbox, check its configured assistance, check its files, check its credits. What's its setting here? What's its temperature app? All these things. And I could go in there and reconfigure the agent as though I was reconfiguring my own personal preferences and state.
Yeah.
And so, like that, to have that ability, that level of fidelity of the clone, the difference between agent and human being so next to nothing that the actual top level interface is identical of both things. That's pure agent. Like that's the word for it is like when you have free will, or when you set a person free, they're no longer a slave to you. They look exactly like you. You have no extra controls over them. And so in the image and likeness of humans, we have these agents that are, for all intents and purposes, indistinguishable from the human. That's what agents are. I don't think that they're agents because of any one particular internal configuration thing. They're agents because they're indistinguishable from us from a systems perspective.
Yes, and the major part, and I'm not sure if this is going to make sense. This is going to be half-arsed, but a major part of that agency is to be able to call yourself to reflect and say, hey, I need a new capability here.
Right.
Last time I was talking to this other agent stroke human, I kind of did a 50% job. I reckon I could get that to 80%.
Right.
And do that without prompting. That for me is the agency around agents. An assistant will sit there, fat, dumb, and happy, and do whatever it's told. Fine, it's a slave.
Right.
An agent.
I know that that's what you expect, but that capability, you would test it within an assistant first. And so, again, you could make an assistant that had that capability, but it would never be able to. You couldn't speak to it as a peer. That's the only difference. But it could still do the upgrade, do the long-running task, do the cron job to check. It could do all that because inside of the agent, that ability is done by an assistant anyway on the inside of the agent. So there's no. I feel like I keep trying to knock you down here, but I'm really just trying to get at the fact that there's no capability internally that an agent has that an assistant doesn't have, because an agent is just an embodiment of assistance. So the assistant must have had the power.
Yes, but I guess the nuance I'm trying to suggest is that an agent is long running.
An
I'm
assistant could be too,
sure.
sir. I honestly think that you will find that we could
Mm,
endlessly have this argument,
mm,
and I think the argument stops very quickly because of the fact that all of the capabilities of an agent is supplied by assistants. Therefore, you as a human could load up that assistant and have that same capability.
yes, but I guess and yeah, sure, this is probably not the time for the discussion, but as a human, I'm loading up that assistant. As an agent, I should be able to do exactly the same.
Yes, but then you're asking for a choice to be made to upgrade and to modify and all that, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's still an assistant doing that inside the agent. And you as a human could set that up too.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
the assistant, the agency is not the internal capabilities, it is the embodiment. It's the top level nature of it is the only distinction.
I think there's also something there about um, deciding to, okay, I'm going to kick off this assistant, and I guess the difference is, I think, an agent can decide to do stuff without ever being told or asked to. An assistant can't. But
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
well, it can self-reflect and go, actually, I need to improve myself because I reckon I
Yeah,
can get that 50% to 70%
yeah,
without being asked by anyone to do it.
yeah. How? Tell me how the mechanics, the internal mechanics of the agent would achieve that.
It's not about the internal mechanics. It's about the triggering of long.
The agent is still a machine. It needs a trigger, which can either be a timer that goes off or an external event that caused it to trigger. It's still a machine.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But if we're if there's an equivalence between humans and agents, then you can say the same thing. You know, a human needs an external stimulus, perhaps thinking about it, and go, I could improve this part of my tooling. Um, whereas an assistant could be given that time trigger and saying, okay, every now and again, look at everything you've done uh, and see if there's any stocks that could improve your own performance. At that point, it feels like an agent. I think this is where the fuzzy part between agents and assistants are.
I tell you, the difference is not the it's not the capabilities. It's the position of them. You know, like I heard a story once. Like it was sort of it was talking about the difference between men and angels, and it was saying that one person was like, oh, angels must be so much better than humans, and the guy was like, well, not necessarily. They might be the same, they might be worse, but they're just better off because of where they're positioned. An example was you're on the ground floor of New York. You're walking around. You hear a fire siren. And you're looking around and you're like, I don't know where that is, but there must be a fire. Someone else is up one of the high rises. They come out on their balcony. They can hear the siren, but they can also see the smoke, and they can see far enough across Central Park to see the flashing lights. And so they know where the fire engine is going and where the fire is. And it wasn't because they were smarter, it was just their position. They were just
The scope, yeah.
They were just sitting somewhere different. And so that's what I'm trying to I know it's fleeting and thin, but that's really the only difference between an agent and an assistant is the agent's position, not anything else. Everything else is could be emulated or could be equivalent because the internal mechanics of an agent is made up of assistants. That's all we've got. That's the only intelligence building block we have.
No, I do agree with that. And I think the difference between agents or AI and humans right now is scope. As web machines, we just have more experience. We've got access to nuance in the same way as agents have more experience in other areas and have access to different nuance. The point being, I'm trying to get a handle on, we're using terminology agents and assistants and humans.
Right.
Humans and agents, for the time being, for the sake of argument, we're saying are equivalent. Assistants are more like slaves, but have their own scope, but the internal workings of them are exactly the same. In your analogy, we're higher up in the high rise.
We enter the system from the point of view of the system. We're just an LLM that has the same handles that an assistant would have to call things and do things in the system. We're just an LLM.
Yep.
No different.
Can I check one part? Maybe there's a bit of dissonance here. When I'm thinking about an assistant, I'm thinking about a tool call that has like a dog with a bone. It's like, right, go bury the bone. So, and it's got a whole bunch of information about how to bury the bone.
Yeah.
But it's not going to go from bury the bone to, writing an academic paper.
Like it's not going to just choose to write the academic paper on a whim.
Right. Yeah.
It could do. It could do, because I can imagine making an assistant that could appear to choose to do those wild and varied tasks.
Yeah, but the thing with the assistant is go bury the bone buried, come back, gone.
That's just how you chose to program it, because I keep asking you to look at how do you imagine the inner workings of an agent is, because we have to program them. We have to program an agent, and the inner workings of an agent, unless you come up with something different, is going to be made up of assistants that are connected to triggers, that things entering the agent from the outside, which could be a clock tick or external stimulus, cause its internal assistants, one or more of them, to grab it and do something with it.
See, I agree with what you just say, but we've got two terms. And this is what I'm grappling with. What's the difference between an agent and an assistant?
An assistant runs inside of an agentic chassis.
But an agent?
What? An agent can't run inside an agent. An agent is the chassis, the holder.
Right. So the only difference is that the agent is where it hits tin.
The difference, the difference between an assistant and an agent is that I don't know how to say it. Sorry, but the chassis that represents an agent and the chassis that represents a human is identical. Those two things are the same code. The human chooses to populate the human. It really, like when you first open your account as a human, you have this empty chassis that we don't tell you it, but you are the first assistant inside of the agentic chassis. You make tool calls and you create new assistants to help yourself, and you tune them, and you do this and you do that. And you build up your chassis to have more and more stuff that helps you do what you want. So it is with a non-human agentic chassis. It starts, probably a human made it and populated it with the assistants that it thinks it needs. but it's still the same concept. The agent is the chassis or the cup or the container. It's not the logic. It's simply the container.
So in human terms, your container is effectively your brain. You can't, well, let's for sake of argument, say you can't containerize a brain.
Well,
That's the highest level unit in the hierarchy.
you can't break it down any further. Like that's the
Um,
atom, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not breaking it down. It's you can't. If you can virtualize it, you're not an agent. If you can put it inside of something else, you're not an agent.
I don't think that. Like you could have an agent and then fork it, and now you got two agents.
Yes, but we're talking about pushing at the top of the tin here. So
Okay, this we hit this thing almost every call, and we never get
yeah, I know
any
there's
far with it.
yeah. I'll keep bringing up because there's something important here.
I think every time we touch it, we nudge it a little bit better. I think that it is sufficient that we understand it internally, and I'm not. I feel like the mechanics of what happens inside is independent of how we want to talk about or name them. Like, I actually only know one way to do this from here on in for agents, and it's in this way where the agent is just a chassis or a container or a mount point, and then I stick agent assistance inside of it. That's all I
Actually,
can
that's a good
think
way
of
that's a
right
good
now.
way of describing it. It's a mount point.
Yeah, it's a mount point. Yeah, that's really the it's the
Yeah,
mount point. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And there's no point. You can't go above a mount point. It's like
No, like what did you do and why did you do it?
yeah, you're breaking
And
out to a different paradigm entirely.
yeah, yeah,
At that point.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. All right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry that there are like philosophical difficulties in defining these things. Like I think that you and everyone else, including everyone, we all want to define agents as a range of different things, and I'm very much taking the wind out of everyone's sails and saying it's nothing different than just the container, and that also goes for you humans as well. You are simply an LLM assistant in the same container that an agent has. Don't think you're special. That's it.
No, I agree with that entirely. But this mount point analogy is a useful one
Okay,
because
that's good.
essentially you can't punch out
Nah,
the
like
roof of the mount point
that's right. That's right. That's right. You're like
because then you're into a different world
you're
completely.
not. Yeah, you're not part of the same reality anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anything inside that is assistance basically all the way down. But
Yeah.
the method by which they consider what is in front of them has to do with their capabilities and their scope, and that's true all the way up, except it has to be a top.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right. So here's an example of the user interface that I want to present because I think it's going to be pretty brutal, but I think that it'll be worth it because of the fact that the bots themselves can reconfigure every component. Like bots can make new assistants, bots can make bots that then make bots. Like the only restriction is on really like money. How much, how many coins have you got? Do you want to do this thing, right? So here's an example of what it will look like. I've just connected up I should be able to take the artifact form of this and add it into this little checker here, right? Which basically makes a simple chat and then hooks it up so that we can talk to it and have a conversation. Can you stop trying to leak my API keys everywhere you go, please? So, what tools you got, motherfucker? Here are the tools I have available. Okay. I want you to go through each one in turn, call it with some test data, and await my response before proceeding. Echo. All right. Tool call echo. So this is sort of what you'll see initially, and then what I'll do is I'll just add sugar or UI sugar on top, but I want to start with just the brutalist kind of interface where I'm like, well, fuck, we don't need all the UI sugar. We need security, reliability, performance of Artifact, and we most of all need this fractal-like composability. And the reason why we need those things is because you, want to have an eval workbench where you can ask bots to make bots and then eval them so that you can get through more tasks. I want it so that I can call Stux in band. I can have a chat about Stux. I can chat about the Stuck making assistant. I can add all these things. And so when we have that composability, the work becomes to configure the composability, as opposed to you ask me for a feature and I'm like, oh God, I got to get into the React code. I need to move this function call on the server. I need to do this and that. And so our task becomes complete because I'm like, dude, you've got Artifact. It is MCP compatible. There is you'll need to make a really strong case why the MCP protocol needs to change. Because now I can defend the NAP protocol, and it's not tempting to me to try and solve a problem you come to me with by changing the NAP protocol, because I'm like, probably MCP does it all. Probably either the question's wrong or the solution's wrong or a bit of both, but surely we can solve it with the tool we got. And so now Artifact goes stable. It's like we're going to keep pace with the MCP protocol, yep, but the changes we make are now shielded by the MCP protocol, and we can call it done and be like, sure, there's tuning, sure, there's this, but actually it stays like, this feels like one of those Git moments. Remember when I switched us to Git, which, like, honestly, if I called up,
it does a bit, actually. Yeah.
Right? It's like it shields us from change, because it's like it does everything we want, does some bits better than we were doing, but the most important thing is it's you can leave it. You can leave that bit alone, because defecting from the protocol is going to be way more costly than whatever you think you're winning. And so therefore we can actually define the end of Artifact. We're like, that is what done looks like there.
Yeah.
And then from there we can move on to initially composing it all, but then long term it's about making the naps, connecting up the services. It's working in the Dreamcatcher, not on the Dreamcatcher.
Yes, precisely. It's constrained. And constrained at a sensible level.
Yeah, right. That's what I like about it, and it's humbling, but it's like, yeah, that's it. And then it also means I can ditch the requirement I had to make a tap on the SQL server, because I won't need that anymore. I still think making a tap is a good thing to do, but the only things I want to do right now are things that get us to the ambient attribution agent, and that's definitely not one of them. I thought I might have had to do it just to get you that workbench thing. This gives it to us, and we stay purely in Git.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so then this is can I do a couple more turns on this chat?
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, all it's really doing is just really just tool calling, and it is possible that when you do a tool call, so I'm not sure if this interface does it. It should, but what's supposed to happen is each time I call the LLM, like when I say go, it should actually query the MCP server to check if the tools have changed. And what that means is that I can actually alter the tools on the fly. So if you choose to do something different, you might have caused the NAP to switch out or jumped around, and that's all perfectly feasible. So did we get that? That was a message. That was a message. No, it didn't do it. But yeah, either way, there's it's part of the protocol that you are entitled to switch the tools at any time you like. So that allows for good dynamicism, where something from the outside can modify the tools as well as something on the inside. Plus, like Artifact, I think brings us this ability to pull in code that's untrusted and then run it. And that kind of means that the whole platform can just sit there, and the thing that evolves is the code that it pulls in and runs. And its job is security, isolation, availability, performance. But all the innovation starts to become the naps and what you do on it. You have, at that point, entered the Dreamcatcher.
Yes.
So I mean, I can make these, I can make these things be nice and helpful and whatever, but I think if they're just JSON at the start, that maybe that's enough. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But at this stage, we should be able to have stucks. And then it's like, I need the UI. You're like, okay, bud. Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like all these helpful things that it's largely Anthropic that's been funding it, but there's a wide range of useful tools. Like this is a React hook, which is this chat I just showed you is made solely to demonstrate what this React hook that Anthropic have supplied do. And it's really just saying that they've made a really no-brainer way to connect an MCP server up to a UI and then do some basic ass shit. You can decorate it however, but they've done a lot of the hard work. And I think you and I both know how hard it is to define a protocol. They've done that. They've stuck to it. They've got it adopted. They keep refining it. It looks pretty clean.
Good. And because of the size of them and their early mover advantage, why would we create another protocol?
We wouldn't. And now we get immediate boost from being protocol compatible, and people who want to switch to us can try it out in ways that they're familiar with, because they're like, oh, MCP, sure. And then now you're sort of, what's the word for it? Your people can dabble without committing, whereas previously we required quite a heavy commit if you wanted to come over. But now it's sort of, we can just be part of things.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Now, can I switch to the next MCP topic?
Go for it.
During my search for different things, it also became apparent that I noticed some other efforts that have done things similar to frames in the MCP space. One such example is this MCP UI effort, whereby I can grab, they've already hooked up their MCP server to it. Okay, and now I go, what, tools, okay, That's not cool. What about this thing? Oh, enable. Sorry, enable. Yep, my bad. Enable. We do love a good demo around here, don't we? So, alright, so this is, I go, show me all my tasks. Now, that called in the UI from the MCP server, because the MCP server sent down a frame, which was an iframe that got rendered. And then, remember how I was saying that I think I did the frame protocol wrong, and I should have made the way that a frame talks out and it gets talked to should be the same as the NAP interface? I think what these guys have done it the same as the MCP interface. So it can MCP in and out of the frame, which from our point of view is equivalent, right? And then they've also done some extra, because remember how I had that issue where I couldn't get the bloody, I had to do some gymnastics to make the frame sit nicely and resize and all that just because of the nature of iframe. So these guys here there's a library that was put out by Shopify, which was, it sort of teleported the DOM. So it ran the logic and stuff within an iframe, and then it kind of copied the DOM and then displays the DOM on the page. So it sort of is more innate within the page because it still gets subjected to your styling and your setup and your display and all that. But because the DOM copy is just inert, it's got no live JavaScript, it's just HTML, that comes across and gets projected on the page, so it's safe, but the iframe is what's executing the dangerous code, which is a much nicer way to do it, I think, because you keep a lot of the styling and all that. But so that's what these guys have got. And you can also do things like you can click on it. I'll try and bring this down so you can see the actual activity happen. I click there, it caused something to come into the chat, which triggered the assistant, and now a new piece of UI has shown up, so I can actually interact out. And this is what we were going for with frames. Now they've done it inline in the chat, doesn't seem too hard to give it a stateboard option as well. They've got the comms in and out, they've got this quite nice way of transporting the DOM. They got some libraries and all that. So there's an example of someone doing what we did, which kind of makes me feel like I wasted a chunk of time, but I don't know. Sometimes you waste time, sometimes you don't. At least I didn't. Well, fuck, I don't have any real excuse really, but I found them and I recognized them because I suffered and I knew how hard it was what they did, and I knew exactly what they were trying to do. So I don't have any excuse for wasting time, but I pray that soon our platform can do the Watchtower ability where it goes and just grinds through all the latest things and finds the relationship between what we're trying to do to help us understand what we're asking better. But also, we should never have this kind of shit happen again. I wasted weeks.
The excuse me. Take a drink. It does sound equivalent. What happens if you hit Ask Chat?
It put a prompt into the chat stream.
That's what we've been looking for. Albeit the layout, Stateboard is probably nicer because it avoids you having to scroll up and down.
Yeah, it's persistent, right? It's sticky.
Yeah,
and like I liked how I liked how our existing interface has the state board set up. Like, I like how that bit worked, but yeah, these things, basically what I need to do, I think, is just make like a super brutal interface where I take some bits that are nice like this. I greatly restrict what models you can use, like I say Claude, Grok 4, and some of the O series models, maybe 4.1, but it's really like a narrow set. And then the key is using the MCP servers to be fully recursive and to have transclusions.
Yeah.
And that's basically the goal. Once we have that working, we're able to now use the platform to file stux.
Yes. Yes.
And hopefully do intelligent work for us, like deeply nested assistants that can crawl the web and keep grinding over things and coming up with things that, like thrashed out, multi-turn, long horizon jobs that come back with like very high quality but short results.
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll just use that to I don't know, try and build up, get agents up, the social aspect up, and then we're like, this is us now.
Yeah. One of the things is most useful. I was talking about being able to, from the thread, to stash. It's like, oh, that's response. That's great. Stash that somewhere in the repo, so that that repo becomes available to another thread.
Yep.
And then I can say, hey, this stash that I've just created, use that as the system prompt for a new assistant.
Yep.
And let's go with it. How far away are we from that? Given what
So
you just
just to get straight on what you want to have a chat for a bit.
Yep.
You would have had many chats before, so this chat is no different.
Yep.
You recognize that something good happened in it, and then you want to jump into a new chat where you point at the old chat and you say, turn that into a system prompt so that how would you know that it was good? How would you know?
No, I might not. I might just want to test it.
Okay, but when you say turn it into a system prompt, are you asking for it to have a guess at what a system prompt that would have behaved the way that it did would look? Or are you asking for a few shot assistant where you're using that thread as the hidden starter of any new thread so that your responses have become the multi-shot, the few shot prompt?
Well, in this specific thing, it's working on one thread, getting the AI to help me write a system prompt, and it's like, okay, that looks good to me. Let's give it a run. Right.
Oh,
Stash
okay,
it
yeah.
somewhere.
So I've misunderstood your question. So you're chatting away about how to get a system prompt up.
Yep.
When the system prompt looks good to your eye, you say, all right, let's give that a run. And then you want it to make a tool call with that new system prompt where it creates a new temporary assistant using that system prompt and will exercise it using some questions that you would have defined further up the prompt, up the chat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes back to previous kind of ask, which was, it would be nice also to be able to stash a thread at a particular point, such that, say, if I've set this up with 3 or 4 prompts, to be able to stash those, and then now I've got a new assistant, prompt, rerun each of those prompts.
I don't understand. I'm
order.
sorry. So you have a series of interactions that you want to replay.
Yep.
What do you do if the assistant response deviates significantly from what the previous assistant said, which means that your next turn will be nonsense?
No, that the whole point is to
that's
find
good.
out. So yeah. So you can set them up saying, here's.
So that would be part of your eval that you're running, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
So I think I can go you one better on all of those things.
yeah.
What I think you really want is you want to have an assistant that's tasked with helping you make and evaluate a very good system prompt. It starts off and it asks you a few questions like you're like, oh yeah, I want it to do this, I want it to do that. This is what I think the system prompt should do.
Yep.
It can, at your request, run up an agent, run the sys prompt, run the test prompts that you've got come back. But really, the tool you want is once you're happy with the evals and you hand tweak them to say what you want it to do, you tell it, you go off and keep going until you have got this working.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That is a step beyond what I'm looking for at the moment.
But that's what you really want, right?
I mean, that would be ideal. It's like,
And then you put in some
you should have
safety
enough
there
information.
where it recognizes that it's like, oh, look, I'm not getting anywhere. I need to go back with this is the best that I could do. Here's how it scores. I don't know. Here's some ideas how to keep going, but this is where I got to. What do you want to do? Right?
Right. Yep.
And so, really, your job becomes like getting those tests right, watching this long running progress, which could take a couple of hours. It should be able to give you a nice progress display where like the best results are popping up, and then we can build it out with more things like it generates synthetic prompts that it thinks carry on the theme of what you were trying to exercise it with, so that it's got more thorough testing, and it has some notes that it's keeping about what it learned about when you do this or that. It's able to flick between multiple models on offer, multiple architectures that it knows about. It can be given a time budget where you're like, I need it back. I need it a response from this solution to be quick, or it's the quality. So you get some, triangular sliders that you can try and make all fit together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's all sorts of evals you could do for that. Best fit, voting logic, whatever.
Yeah.
But the key to it is in that from the thread, basically avoiding the cut and paste. It's like the moments. It's like, okay, I'm gonna cut, paste, save, upload the new file. Now that new file is available to me. That's quite a long way. What I'd like to do is say, well, stash this somewhere so that you know about it.
Well, what does that mean though? It's always saved. You mean you want to flag it as being useful?
Yeah, because
So you'd really want to come at this where you've had a couple of cracks at it. You've got maybe half a dozen threads that you thought were of good quality, and then you want to point a bot at all those and be like, take it home.
yeah, bake that in somewhere so that I can call it.
Yeah, look, might take a little finessing around to make it work like how you want, but I think the version I described would remove the need for those stashing requests, or no?
It might do. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Well, the stash ones. Either way, those things sound like things that we can.
Yeah, I mean the essence of it is I've got a few threads running, working on different nuances of what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And then it would be great to be able to put those into into the repo. So then I could talk about, well, here's the results from run 1, here's the results run 2, run 3.
Yeah. I think that's like really good use of time for a human. Like where you're like looking at these evals and then this machine's running off, burning like $20 worth of credits to come back to you with what would have taken you bloody ages to do yourself, but the quality has enhanced significantly.
Yeah.
I think that's a good system.
But the it does require that some method of taking something from the thread and then making it an object in the repo or a file in the repo.
Yeah, so all the way that we're going to do it is that all threads are in the repo as files.
Yeah, but it's as you're saying, in the thread, you might have gone off piste and then brought it back in, and you don't want to pollute the any subsequent um, thread with all the mistakes that you made along the way.
You mean
Like
like
errors.
you don't want to pollute the solver that's going to try and compact down that thread, or you're simply saying that you don't want to use it as a few shot prompt and pollute the new assistant.
Something like that. So, say if you're in a thread and your task is this is I'm saying system prompt, but it could easily be an output. Um, and you're interacting with the bot, and you get to a point saying, "Hey, that last answer, I like that." Right. What I'd like to do is save that so we can go back to it. Dump everything in the previous thread. Let's start a new thread, and let's use that system prompt as the starter, and let's perhaps do it 3 times. I'm going to test it with different models. It's like, okay, yep, and then go back to the original, saying, here are the results. You know, you were too specific in this area.
I
So
don't get
let's.
why that's not met by the application that I laid out for you.
Oh, it is. No, what I'm asking is, where in the uh, well, basically, how long before we get there? Because that's the thing that's kind of stopping a lot of stuff because I'm having to go out of band. I have to pop back up out to Bertin, my
So
my brain.
that's the most important thing that you want, that capability.
Yeah, yeah, to be able to stash in a repo and
So
then
I think
pop the repo.
um, do you need transcludes to do that, or is that something that can work if it just had file system access?
Probably file system access.
Like it's probably not
Uh,
transcludes, right?
well, transcludes work best when you've either your file system is so large that your context is getting unwieldy, or if you want to transclude between repos, um, both of which are very useful.
Right,
But
but I
for
guess
for small folder
well,
structures, so you could.
I guess transclude is just pointing at the files server, so maybe it doesn't even save any time. You're really just saying you want to point at some files and folders and
Yeah,
use that in the chat.
yeah, cursor
Yeah.
like on multiple repos because it would be given our kind of NCP
Why
net.
multiple repos?
Um, because say if
What are you doing
well,
that's
I'm
cross
doing this
repo
translation
context?
stuff. I'm doing this translation stuff, and now you could you're taking in a novel, fairly chunky, in English, and you're translating it into 5 different languages.
Yeah.
Uh, Now you might context window size wise, um, if you were to have all 5 translations and the original English, um, and in the context of what you're trying to do into one context window, that's going to get unwieldy. You're going to get some weird stuff. You're going to get Spanish turning up in Chinese
Yeah. But why is that? Why do you need cross repo context?
because the way to get around that is to have one repo per translation.
Why can't you just have one folder per translation in the same repo?
Then what you want to do is maybe let's compare Spanish to European Spanish to Latin American Spanish.
Still, why can't it just be folders in a repo?
Because to select that, say if that same repo also had Chinese and Squillic and whatever,
Yeah.
you don't want those to be considered. You only
Yeah,
want to
so
be
don't
talking
select
about those
them.
two.
Like, you're not selecting the whole repo at once, you're just selecting a specific folder.
But that's a transclude, isn't it? You're saying consider these folders, not these
Yeah.
others. Ignore those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit we want to get to be able to.
No, hang on.
Mhm.
My concern is you're asking for cross repo, multiple repos at once, and that becomes harder to do than just simply one repo, but different folders that have been selected, not
Oh,
the
okay.
whole
I see what you're
repo.
saying. Yeah, no, I'm disinterested whether it's across repos, but the transcludes be able to stash and then transclude. If it's one
Okay, when you keep saying
repo for
stash,
everything.
stash means that like you want to flag it as good.
Yeah, yeah, and come back to it. Future day inside of a transclude.
You want to come back to it. Does that mean you want to resume it as the chat that you're in, or you want to talk about it from another chat?
Both are equivalent. If you can stash an entire chat, that's fine. Ideally,
They are
well,
not
it's
equivalent.
actually exactly. Well, if you want to stash the entire chat, that is still a stash. If I say that last response was good, save that. That's just a part of the thread that you're saving, but you're still saving it off to a repo. So going from thread to repo, part of thread to repo, and then transclude from repo into thread.
I don't think you're answering my question. Do you want to come back and resume the chat where you're in the chat and you're carrying on the chat, or do you want to come back to all the things that you flagged as being potentially useful and talk about them in a new chat?
Unfortunately, both. So the thread itself,
Oh, yeah, okay.
already we've got that. You can like click on the thread and it's like, okay, thread is there in your history.
And you probably, how important is it for you to be able to select parts of the chat, like individual messages, and then talk about them, or stash them, flag them as
Um,
being useful?
Quite well, very very useful in that at the moment what I'm doing is dragging the cursor down, copy, paste, save file, upload
Okay.
file.
All right. I think that, yeah, what you're asking for sounds like full blown transcludes, which I'm happy to do. I don't think it saves much time to skip some bits of that versus others.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my deeper question is, how is building transcludes going to help us get to the ambient attribution agent?
I think
Like,
transcludes.
have we got locked on this particular problem that you have, when actually the real problem we have is we don't have an ambient attribution agent? What is the
Um,
best thing to be doing to get the ambient attribution agent up?
I guess my argument is transcludes are fundamental for solving any problem, including ambient attribution. Now, I think a few calls ago
Yep.
we
Okay.
said
Fair enough. Fair enough.
the base. Yeah, yeah. It just
Okay.
seems
All right.
it's
So what I'll do is I'll make it. It'll be like this, largely. Um, and then I'll just add in ways that you can. I'll give you some hot agents down here where you can click them and it will switch you over to a specific MCP server where an assistant represents an MCP server,
Mhm.
because it's simply a NAP that's set up to have a system prompt, have these tools, whatever.
Yep.
And so you'll be able to select your assistant, and then you can attach your files and things using the transclude mechanism. But
Yep.
it'll be just the most basic of interfaces, and I think we just want to stay ugly and
Yeah,
light
I'm fine with ugly. Yeah.
until we get.
Even last time I was saying, could you do this in the command line? This is like one step up from a command line. So basically, yeah, absolutely fine.
True. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, but I think that was it from me.
Let me just look through my notes. I think it's as we've been going along. I think we've covered everything I was talking about.
No need to respond is a handy way to send over piecemeal. Is this the messaging that you sent me? We just covered that scenario, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then for a glorious 10 minutes, I thought, you've got subtopics. Maybe it does it. And it didn't.
Mm.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah, I know, right?
hopes
Because
dashed. It was like, oh, that'd be so cool if there's, like, it's like what I was thinking a subtopic was a rabbit hole. You're talking to a thread, like go down the rabbit hole, and then okay, all right, right, fine, right, back into the main thread. But no, it wasn't that at all. It was more like a kind of hard fork.
Yeah. So what you're asking for then is that you wanna say I'm chatting, right? I'm like, what tools, and then down here sometimes you wanna start a new chat, but you wanna include this one in the transclude.
Yep, yep.
Or is that worthy of a button, or is that simply what you should do is go new chat and then click on your last chat and add that in as the transclusion?
Yep, that's essentially what subtopic does at the moment. It's pulling it back in to the original.
What, a subtopic? You mean a subtopic as you want it, or a subtopic as is currently implemented?
It's currently implemented. Essentially, it's a completely new thread that has the same context as the parent.
Okay, so I'm confused now. What did you want to happen?
So if you think about this as a rabbit hole, I've got a thread. It's like, that's interesting. Let's test this. Okay, so let's fork that, have a conversation, and then in that subtopic thread, go, right, we've come to a conclusion. Add that back into the original thread, and let's pick up where we've
that?
gone off. The result of your subtopic thread. It might be the entire thing, or it might be a part of it.
Who makes the decision that it's going to be a part or a whole?
Well, at the moment, me as the driver of the thread.
Right, and
But
so how would we solve that with the simplest UI possible? You're in a thread, you're chatting away. You then go duplicate thread, then you carry on chatting.
Yep.
And then
this is where the stash comes in. It's like, say if you
hang on. Let me try and finish this run because I think it can do what you want. So you come in, you got your thread. You click duplicate, which is to say that I want to take the thread as is, and now I want to make a new one that has no relation to the old one except for the fact that it copied in where the thread was up to.
Yep.
Then I want to keep chatting, and then if something good happens, I'm like, oh, now I need that back in the thread that I was in. And so I can see 3 ways that you might want to do that. You might want to return with a compressed, summarized version of the changes that occurred. You may want to come back with all of the changes that came there, or you may want to cherry pick some of the changes that were in that thread, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is if you want to come back across, I think you need to fire up a new chat with the thread doctor, where the thread doctor knows how to stitch things together like that. You tell it by way of the transclusions that you select. So you, in a stateboard widget or whatever, you pick the messages inside of the chat, and then you say to it, stitch this together. And then it modifies the original chat, and then you go back to the original chat.
Yes.
Okay, is that good enough?
Well, that's what essentially I'm doing by hand, by different
That's not the
tabs at the
question,
moment.
buddy.
It's good enough. It would make life a lot easier and replicate what I'm doing very slow-handed at the moment.
Okay, can you imagine? How would it be better?
Um,
Because it sounded like you had an idea that you wanted it to all happen within the same chat, but I'm trying to say, well, fuck, like that's kind of complicated because there's a bunch of decision points in there, and now you want to have a chat with another AI from the outside as though you wanted the doctor to be sort of like Clippy, where
um,
like you
um,
wanted a little Clippy assistant that you could be like, hey, I want you to take this thread, do this, blah, 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 and it's like, okay. And then, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I kind of want to bring back to so take a thread, duplicate it, continue, um, and then bring back a package into the original thread and saying, "Hey, I've just talked to this other thread, and
right.
here's what we've been saying." Now, whether
But,
that all or some, um,
or
uh,
or a transformation,
or a transformation into some kind of conclusion.
right. But
Um,
of the way that I just described, like, you can see the difficulties in making that be just in band, right? Like, you kind of
oh
need to
yeah,
break out.
in band is rubbish because then you're just putting the cognitive load on the human to go back and going, "Who am I talking to here?" And so having it off to one side is much easier
Okay,
because
all right. So the point is that if I asked you to now open up an assistant called the Thread Doctor, that's not going to be problematic. Like you can't see a better way to do it than that.
no. I mean, that's
No.
ideal because the third
Okay.
doctor
All
presumably
right.
would
Cool.
be kind of a meta process going,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Cool. All right.
you've talked
So
this 3 times."
another question in the existing interface, we have this notion of assistants down the side, which I
Mhm.
quite like personally. And then each assistant has a bunch of threads with it. Personally, I think that the threads should be shown sort of here rather than over
Mhm.
here. Like I don't like them
Mhm.
over here because I'm like, why? What? But
Mhm.
um, we're gonna. I think we need to keep this concept right because it's always going to be different assistants that do different things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And your assistant is your settings, isn't it? Really, it's your initial priming, and then the threads for each assistant is each interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll do that, and then so that one of these assistants will be Thread Doctor. You can reconfigure what each one does. You can share them and haul them in from other places. You can use them to use workbenching tools to create new, better refined ones based on all your threads. Um, so that kind of becomes about it, really.
Yeah, I mean that would be cooking on gas with that.
What are we missing here? What else did we need? So there was like the configuration of the assistant. So that seems like something that we could just add in as like very, very crude UI that just does these things because who cares?
Or
Um,
because it's self-aware, you could tell the
yeah, get an
talk to the
agent.
assistant.
Right. So in lieu of having UI, you just use AI
Yeah, yeah.
to do stuff you wanted. Yeah, okay. And what else would we miss? So all this stuff is nice but not needed. So billing, I'll just tell you what your bill is, and if you don't like it, you can go
Stop
somewhere
using
else.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voice input. Fuck. We'll have to leave voice input for a little bit. That's a massive pain.
That's a low priority for me because I'm just using Whisper. Just hit a button.
I stopped using Whisper. I stopped my usage of
Oh,
it now.
I use it. I use it a lot. Why did you
Yeah.
stop using it?
Well, My questions became, I guess, quite technical and quite short once I moved to Grok.
Oh, I see. So,
And so, like, technical, you get a lot of spelling mistakes. I'm like, ah, fuck it.
yeah. I find it useful because I'm very much more in the NL space
Right.
than the temporal
Yeah,
space.
right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I guess because this interface, dealing with this interface, dragged me back into code space, which I
Yeah.
keep on thinking I've escaped, and then back I go. All right, so enter to send, that's all fine. New topic, yep, send. You don't need any of that editing stuff, right? Because we can just add that in as like, I don't even use those features, so whatever.
Yeah.
Right, so the UI is nice, but it's better to have a brutal UI and self-aware tooling. So this whole interface we can replicate pretty good, except for share. So share will have to come out some other way. I don't think we need to solve that now.
Yeah, it's really useful for growth of usage, but
Yeah. AI painting, we can drop repos, which is access to your files. That just fires you up. So I was just going to make actually all of these buttons is actually just the assistants, and you're really just starting a new thread with the assistant when you click. Like, there's a one-to-one link between these buttons and these agents because they are effectively the system agents or the
yeah.
home assistants, and then you can have other assistants, sure, but these ones are required to get the basic functionality of the platform, and all the others are just like, when you click on assistants here, you just get all your normal assistants, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, sorry to be pedantic. I'll make it so that you click on assistants chats and you'll get all of your custom assistants. But when you click on each one, you'll be talking to a specific system assistant. And the only way to talk to that assistant is to hit the hot button.
Yep.
Is that fair?
Yep. That works.
Because otherwise, like, you end up with this thing being quite cluttered because now you've got all the system agents and then where are your agents, and then it's like there's two ways to get to them.
Yeah, they're like the must-have assistants.
Wait. So if I want to transclude an assistant, that's why I might need them all in one spot. Because if I want to talk about them, bugger. Well, maybe you can select it like a folder. That's a bit of a wrinkle, that one. I don't know how to solve that one. I'll just make the shitty version and we'll just come back and work on it, I guess, because all I'm talking about here is how to arrange things, but the functionality is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Can I just quickly run through with you what each of these buttons does and make sure that it can still do it in this sort of MCP only way? Okay, so assistant chats, you're going to read from the folder that contains all the assistant configuration files so that you can list them all here. And then you're going to read from all of the chats in the chats folder and map them back to which assistant the chat should be under. That's just going to be done by querying the file system using the MCP protocol.
Yep.
Okay. AI painting will remove, don't need that. Repos is going to be an agent that can deal with all of the repo and file operations that Artifact provides. it's presenting a tree-based UI that is just simply making tool calls to read the directory, list the directory, read the file, download the file, upload the file, make a commit, all those things. That's just a bot plus a frame where this stateboard frame is really just a file explorer.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Discover. Oh shit! How would that work? I guess Discover just plugs into a particular repo that has a list of all the different types of things that you may wish to discover.
That sounds very vague. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it create or take you to the assistant that allows you to look at all the or search for the NCP servers that are available?
Right, and then we're classifying the MCP servers by functionality type, where some are assistants, some are functionality, and some are services that contact the outside world.
Yes, but all because of our NCP NAP equivalents. All of them are assistants, just some are really dumb and limited.
No, a NAP can be not an assistant and can be just pure tool calls. If it has no assistant prompt.
Talk to the tools?
No.
Yeah.
Because you might want to just like for example, we've got this potential to napify the whole of the NPM ecosystem, where you can just present all of these modules as things that could be called using the MCP interface, depending on what you were trying to do. There's no.
I was thinking of when I was saying a really dumb assistant. The dumbest assistant would basically just be flag H. It's like, what can you do? I've got this package. What do you do?
Right. Well, yeah, but it sounds like you want to distinguish those things that are meant to handle LLMs or have LLMs inside of them, or channel LLMs, versus things that just do classical code, right?
No, I'm thinking about the same interface level. So you talk to the NCP, and if it's got an LLM inside of it, you go to its NAP, and you say, "So, what do you do?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm I do this because of my system prompt."
So that would be an assistant, right?
Right. And then you go to bake code and say, "What do you do?" And you go, "All right, okay, I've got these libraries in it."
But who's doing that? Who's saying that?
It's the part of the discovery of you've got an NCP and
but isn't the thing for a piece of classical code? Isn't it the discover assistant is the one answering questions about classical code? Because really, the discover assistant,
you could do it that way as well.
The discover assistant is acting like a valet, and so when I want to talk about an assistant or about a NAP, I talk to the discover assistant, and it tells me, and then I might be like, "Can you run this classical NAP for me? I want to exercise it a bit," and it's like, "Sure," ding, 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 adds numbers, whatever. Then it's like, "I want you to exercise this assistant. This is my problem. Do you think that can you find me an assistant that will solve it?" And it can queue up hundreds of assistants and run the evals on them and give you like the top 3 and be like, "Hey, I found this assistant. When I asked it the example questions using my own intelligence to expand them, this assistant works 100% of the time." That
I guess this is down to your architectural preference, because you could do it either way, couldn't you? You could get the Discover assistant to talk to an NCP server. Say a new one has popped up; it's just been published, and the Discover assistant needs to know about it, and it would presumably query either the NL interface that the MCP is wrapped with, saying, I haven't seen you around here. What do you do? I was like, oh, that could be quite useful. Okay, so next time someone asks me to do something that you can do, I'll push them your way. Or you could have just, well, here's a complete directory, and you can just, ask directly, because the NCP has been updated since then, and maybe it's changed. So either way would be discovery. It's whether, I guess, you're indexing through the discovery agent or assistant, sorry, or you're just simply asking the MCP itself each time, do you do this? Here's the task. And it has knowledge only of what its own functionality
It doesn't
is.
make sense to ask it each time, because you're not. That's you using the thing. But something has to valet you into using the thing in the first place, and you can't trust that it will give you a safe response. The only thing you can trust is what your trusted assistants do.
Oh, that's true. You could have a Byzantine MCP out there saying,
Or
yeah,
just
I
a
do this.
spammer, it just floods you, or lies, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's out of your control. I think that you could combine the Discover agent with a lot of these other agents, like that workflow, the workbenching, the eval workbench tool you were talking about, should be able to also call on the discovery assistant to ask it to go look for or do a long-running search for candidates that can pass these evals. And then you're able to search the broader published assistant base.
Does the discovery assistant say if there's bait code? Does the discovery assistant look at the bait code?
I'd imagine so, depending on what it was tasked to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I don't know if it's the discovery assistant or something else, but you should be able to modify the code if it's close but not exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And then you modify, republish, but that's starting to get into the territory that we want to be in, which is
that's a stuck, isn't it?
Really? Something went off, found something close, and then without any humans involved, modified it slightly to be fit for purpose, and then presented it back. You're like that. That is winning. That is intelligence at service.
And if it's successful, then effectively publishes what is caught in the thread. It's like, I've tweaked this, and that was quite useful.
Okay, all right. So
seems to like that.
So that seems pretty straightforward. That one. Stux is just another assistant. So I guess this eval workbench that you're asking for is really going to be quite important, because it's going to be used to make all of these individual bots.
Yeah, and in some cases, I guess it's in the resolution of Stux. If you present Stux.
Yeah. Like, you make a Stux. So should we be calling, we started calling things assistant because of this interface design, but naturally I want to call these things bots. You seem to be fairly settled on bots. Should we just call them bots now that we have a good one? We have a distinction.
I'm happy with that.
All right, so we'll call them.
We spent time talking about what's assistant versus an agent and so on. And to be honest, they're all bots, aren't they?
Yeah. So agent, we've got a special definition for that, but bot is just what all of these things are, right? Yeah. All right. So Stux is just going to be, it's going to be able to fish out the context of whatever you were just doing, which means that it's going to look at the commit history of the repo to find what you changed last, so that it has a rough idea about what you were doing.
Yes, and why you failed.
Right. And then it should be able to run in the background as well as directly when you talk to it. you should be able to see its background threads somehow. And it basically helps you create a stuck document, and then
Yeah,
it publish
there is an asset. There's a thing
a
there,
thing, right?
isn't there?
There's an
Which
output,
wraps
yeah.
quite. Is it just a transclude of?
It includes a transclude of the context, but it is itself. It has some interpretation or some messaging around the transclude. Otherwise, all you've done is just showing someone a broken system, and they're like, "What do you
It
want?"
does. There's like an evaluation about why this is a stuck.
Yeah,
I was trying to do this,
yeah,
and it didn't work. Here's the context.
yeah,
Here's the thread. Here's the transcludes I was using at the time.
yeah. Here's how you can recreate it, and then
Yeah.
something else goes around deduplicating it. I don't know what.
It sounds like a branch out to Discover. It's like, hey, I've got this stuck. Is there anything close? Discover bots. Go and have a look.
Can Discover search for stucks as well, or is stucks the way to discover stucks?
Say that again?
Actually, I think Stucks is in charge of creating stucks, but Discover is in charge of finding stucks.
Yes.
Yeah, and so Discover is also in charge of deduplicating stucks. Or is that something different again? Because that's like you could have a stuck worker where it tries to solve stucks or something in the background. That doesn't feel like that's this agent. That's a different agent.
It does. It's like the grinder, isn't it?
Yeah, like the stuck workbench. Like if you fire up the stuck workbench, then it's an assistant that pulls in a dedicated state board, and it's prompted and has access to other assistants and tools that are specifically designed to find, deduplicate, and solve stucks in the background.
Right. So the stuck resolver. So the process of resolving a stuck
Right.
would involve calling the Discover bot, saying, "Is there something close?
Right.
Something I can work with?"
Right.
And it would also deal with the package that's stuck. So, okay, so this is what you're trying to do, and we've got this thing here that the Discover has just come back saying, I guess 90% of the way there. And then there's
Right.
kind of evaluation step where it's like, well, okay, so I think we've got that last 10%.
Okay, so there's enough there to make a stub, and then we'll work on it more.
Yeah.
There's also like
the important
these.
thing is, does it break anything in the architecture? I don't think it does.
No. Economy. Economy is where you talk with the ambient attribution agent, but you do it by way of an assistant, a bot that knows about the ambient attribution agent, but also a lot of the background and all that, I think.
Yes, I think we're still quite vague on the economy bit.
Right, but that's really the thing we got to finish, right? Like, once we have the economy bot and the economy agent, which is the ambient attribution agent,
Yep,
that's done. Like, we can start to thicken.
The economy really is around distribution and trading.
Attribution and trading.
Yeah.
So that's really the thing that we're trying to do, right? Like, that's the core.
Yeah.
Our job is done once this bot and the supporting agent is working, and all the work we do for blockchaining this and that, nested recursive things, all that, it's all just to make it so that this agent works.
Yeah.
All right. Contacts, is that really, should that be under discovery, or should that be like, because it seemed like contacts is, like when you install a bot, where's the list of installed bots? Does it look like an app store? We got all these different apps with all the different colors. And then what you've got here is actually your chats, which is, what if I chat to a person? Like, what if I'm talking to you and it's intermingled in between the bots? So messy, so messy.
I mean, we need more thought on that one. I mean, we've got our equivalence principle, and so it should be the same as a bot talking to a person. But I think people would find that difficult.
All right, so here's starter for 10 then. In the assistance system, you can have different assistants that you've chosen. They're all sorted by how recently you spoke to them, or it could just be like a list of all the chats, but like the icon and the name of the assistant is at the header. So it's like ChatGPT, but where they're just ordered chronologically or by however else you want it ordered, because you can plug in an agent, a bot in the background that will sort them for you based on some natural language criteria, which is kind of useful. But you can also click a button or get that will cause a state board to come up that will show you all of the installed bots that you've got. So all the ones that you have used at any time that you did like, that list can be curated by a background bot that checks to make sure it's still the best thing for the purpose and all that. So you can basically pull up a thing that looks like the App Store. We got all these pretty icons, and you can just look at all the things that you've specifically chosen or interacted
all
with.
sorts of ways you can sort that, right?
All right. Okay. Then when you've got people or contacts, that's really agents, and it should look like WhatsApp, where it's like you're talking to, like, should when you're talking to an assistant or bot, when you're talking to a bot, it makes a lot of sense to keep the chat separate, because the assistants don't have any background systems that sort of look at, you know. And so when you start talking to agents, see, when you and I have our WhatsApp chat, we don't start new threads or new topics, and it would probably work against us if we did. We'd end up back at email, which, you know, threads fall off and die, and then you're like, you want to actually move between threads because this email chain now relates to this other thing, and it's kind of a nightmare, right? And the good thing about WhatsApp is it's all in one spot. The bad thing about WhatsApp is it's all in one spot. But my question to you is that, would you expect an agent to be able to handle a single massive never-ending thread like what you and I have in WhatsApp?
No, I'd prefer not, because
Why not?
Agents or bots are useful because of
Agents-
the ability to have distinct topics.
But agents are not bots.
No, I was saying bots. Bots are a bundle of system prompts, temperatures,
Yeah.
model
And so with
choice,
bots, you
all that
definitely
kind of
want to
thing.
have multiple topics,
Yeah,
right? New
absolutely.
threads. Yeah, absolutely, without doubt. With people, when you're talking to a person on this platform, are you going to want to have multiple threads?
No,
No.
I don't
Then-
think so.
Then
So,
that means that if you want to talk to agents on this platform and agents look the same as a human, then with agents, you don't want multiple threads.
that follows.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Well, it does follow logically. I'm not sure that's the best thing.
Right. What it will mean, though, is that, like, I don't think, I think that it's how things should be, but I think that in the interim, basically for that to work, you simply need a well-trained bot that knows how to self-topicize inside of the agent. So it knows when you're talking, it knows when you've now started a new thread, or if you're interlacing threads. Like, it needs to just be good at that. And I reckon that we could do that.
Yeah. Because inside of the agent, you can have other assistants. You can
Yeah,
have one curator going, we're talking about
yeah.
this. Right.
And then, like, when you start having group chats where there's multiple people in the chat as well as multiple agents, then you need a bot inside of each agent that is able to be like, are you talking to me? Is he talking to me? Are they talking to me? Are they still talking to me? Like, it knows how to shut up when it's not being spoken to, and it
Yep.
knows when it's being asked for something. And so, really, for agents to behave the same as people, they need a couple of those etiquette or awareness modules built in by way of bot. And I think they can do it, man. I think that they.
I think so. It might take in a few passes internally, black
Mm,
box, for you
mm,
to say, we're talking about our holidays, we're talking about Lamrock and Josh,
mm,
we're talking about AI now.
mm.
People do the same thing.
Yeah,
Um,
people get it wrong too. They're like, did you mean me?"
yeah. It's like, oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't know you were talking to me.
my
Yeah.
my bad. Sorry. All right. Well, so context stays then,
Yep.
where context is the same as the bots, where you can sort of see all the bots that you could talk to, but context is also like all the agents and people that you could talk to. Discover is how you find new ones.
Yep. Yep. I was just thinking about the chats there. Are they contacts?
Yeah.
The
Okay. So.
I think a second.
Mm, mm, mm,
Using a similar principle was like, hey, these are all the agent stroke humans, and you're kind of talking out of band at that point. So, for example, I want to talk about my holidays now, and human's going to be trying to figure out what was the last thing he said about your holidays, and the agents will be building up a context based on the last
Yep.
time we talked about holidays.
Yep.
But in each case, you want to be able to address in the same ways you do with WhatsApp, at human1.
Yep.
Have you thought anything more about the holidays?
Mm.
So there is a different interaction with that. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking out loud there. There is a difference.
A difference in what?
Because when you go to a bot and go to a topic, you're
Sorry, what's the
doing
difference? What's the difference is where or what?
the difference is in who selects exactly what the context is. So you go to a bot and a topic and know that you're talking about that topic. Essentially, that's the previous thread.
Yeah, because it's hard. You picked it by way of where your mouse cursor moved.
Right. Now, that picking algorithm is in your head as the user, whereas when you're talking to a contact, the picking algorithm is in the other entity's head.
Yeah, but in WhatsApp we do okay with that.
Yeah, no. But I think there's a kind of nuanced difference between those. In that, I only want you to consider this and not to consider anything else, which would be the
Yeah.
initial
Look, I think
topic.
we're getting into the realm of, like, logically, I think it makes sense to give agents the same one big thread that we're going to give to humans, because of the fact that we know the ills of giving humans multiple threads with each other. It just turns into garbage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do agents in there, and we'll see if we can get them working or not. And then the backstop or the back out plan is we'll give them topics.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, the last thing, and I do promise this is the last thing. Sorry, it has dragged on. is the concept of handover. So if I click this button, I would expect for a new chat to open with the contacts bot, knows about my contacts, and I can be like, hey, who was I talking to about this thing this other day? Was it this or that? And then you might go, hey, I'm trying to find someone to help me with my maths. At that point, it would hand you over to the discovery agent. So it should be aware of the other agents that make up the base.
Oh, very, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And then when it goes handover, your thread window will stay the same, except now the icon of what the bot that you're talking to is changes. The button down the side changes to having discovery being selected. And then, but the chat still stays, the chat's still here. But the state board switches because it handed you over to a different purpose.
But also it pre-filters what it's showing in the state board based on the context of what you are asking for.
Right.
Maths guys.
Right. And so how we actually solve that handover piece we can do later, but it could well be there's an orchestrator or there's like a system agent in the background, a system bot in the background that is an orchestrator that is watching for handover. And then that's probably how it decides. Because you want to be able to go into one and be like, no, take me back. And it's like, oh, sorry. And then flicks you back to wherever you were.
Yeah. I keep going back to this paradigm, but I think it's a fruitful one, where you're on a call center helpline and someone else has got the UI in front of them. And all you've got is natural language. And they say, oh, I need to transfer you to billing. And you don't want to have to say all again, all the context.
No.
So that context switch over is really important. Because if it's missing, it's just repetition. It's like, okay.
Okay, so if that's true then, is the act of starting a new chat really... it requires you to actively start it? Because if I just if I click one of these buttons, are we really saying that all I've done is switched? I've performed the act of the switchboard myself, right? I think this is getting to the crux of it, eh?
That's exactly what it is.
All right, so just to be abundantly fucking clear, I'll hide this. I'll make this become... oh, fuck. Sorry, hang on a sec, mate. Go Grokky. I know that this one has it. So I'm going to just use this interface as a horrible way to show what I'm meaning. This is the chat that I'm having. I can start a new chat. I can keep on going with this one. If I'm in this chat and I click discover, the chat stays exactly the same, but the agent switches as though the orchestrator or the operator in the big corporate that I called had just repatched my call.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And that means that you come with all of the context that you would have had, and the state board switches.
Yeah, and there's some prompting to do there in this prompt of that switch, because effectively everything that's gone before is context.
Yeah.
But not necessarily the thinking, because you get switched from, third line to billing.
Right.
Third line might have gone around the houses a few times to figure out what the hell you're asking for, and it's like, oh, you're asking for billing. Then you go to billing,
Mm.
Billing wants to know what you said, but what you don't want is to pollute billing with the thinking of the third line guy.
Oh, you mean like all the back and forth that it took to realize you needed billing?
Right. So
Yeah, that's true, but I think that you'll find the modern bots are pretty good at dealing with that as well. You under the hood, you can actually tag the assistants with a name, so when the assistant gets called, it knows that it's seeing assistant messages that aren't from it.
right. That's precisely it.
Yeah.
That's precisely
But
it.
I don't
It's
know
like,
how well the model interprets that, but I think they're pretty good. So all I'm getting at is that we don't need to do anything special there until it becomes a problem. A lot of these issues that we've spoken about here are ones that a better model would solve, I believe.
yeah.
And so if we just keep pressing down this path, I think that we'll also find that the amount of work we have to do to make it all fit together becomes less as well.
Yeah.
I think we're actually onto something here. Can I run a couple more edge cases past you?
Yes, please. Go for it.
This button here represents a changing of the state board. You click it, and now the state board comes up showing whatever it was that piece represents.
Yeah.
When I switch to a new assistant, it should show... Oh god, sorry, I actually clicked the button. I didn't mean to. It should actually show the home state board of that assistant, so that if I want to, I can click on it. Like if I go to discover, it would show up here, that little state board icon, where I can click it, and now I get the state board that goes with the discover thing that I just clicked on, right? Okay, now what that also means is that while I'm in, say if I click on repos, and then I get my little icon here that allows me to click on it and have the state board show the repos state board thing, I then select a bunch of files here which show up in the transclusion here, and then I switch to go to another agent. Those transclusions stay with me in that chat. So I should be able to pick around a bunch of different assistants here and build up my transclusion across all these different ways of looking at the information.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's the key, right? The chat stays.
Yes.
The chat stays, and as you switch the bot, and therefore the state board and the context picker and the context availability, you can then pick and carry bits into the transclude that's being formed, ready for your next prompt, so that as you navigate around these systems, you're just cherry picking bits and pieces here. You could even say things like, hey, can you add this bit? Can you add this thing to my transclude, please? And then it like looks at it and goes, oh, yep, I see what you're doing here. I'll add in these files for you. There you go. And now your transclude is filled with these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something quite powerful in that paradigm.
I think it's minimal. It's very minimal. Like that's what's good about it. Like you can't. Yeah, there is something nice in there, eh? It's hard to say what, but it feels native.
Well, here is a stab at why it feels minimal. I feel that if that was up, and we put voice to text interface, almost feels like my mum could do coding. Albeit, you know.
Well, I think it's even better than that. It's that your mum could cause coding.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's really what we want to get to. We don't want people to code. We want them to cause coding and then consume it.
Yeah. And by coding, that is just an event. It could be cause money to move from your bank account or order a pizza. Doesn't really matter.
Mm.
But if it's more complex situation, you're still carrying that context so that you're not having to repeat yourself. Understands that there's been a context switch, and you just get a really good switchboard of people who know what the context
Like a
is.
good switchboard, yeah, and it's editable by your. Okay, that's
Mm,
pretty cool. That sounds like the next version to make then.
mm.
It's funny that, like, you know, I make us these versions to critique, and then we sort of poke at it and realize that there's a way to simplify it or make it more natural. And and then we're like, okay, next one. And I feel like there's really not. It's so uniform that there's really not much. Like, there couldn't possibly be anything more to do because there's no more complication anywhere.
It does seem very minimum, and I've still got my uh, um, Hail Mary request, which is to be able to just walk up and down in the office here and just talk to it and say
Mm.
things like, "Right, here's what I'm trying to do."
Yeah, I
Okay, well,
know.
we've got a bunch of stuff, and then
Yeah,
you go down a rabbit hole, and they go, "Remind me what I was talking about,"
that's right.
a
That's
couple
right.
of
And
minutes
then
ago.
it gives you, like, this set of tools has the power to give us those long running intelligence runs that are happening for us in the background that we knew we needed to kick off. We didn't know all the details and we shouldn't have been bothered about it. But it went off and it did a bunch of stuff. It's like, we're thinking of starting a new company called Hot Potato. What else do I need to know? Blah, blah, blah. And then it knows all of the questions we've ever asked, knows the internet, and it just grinds like over and over and over until it comes
Yeah,
back with a really good answer.
and the really cool thing is it discovers baked code that can just simply do it,
Yeah, man.
or
Like,
it
that's
can
the
go
thing,
into an
right?
LLM that would just give
Right.
advice, and it's like,
But let us not get
this stuff.
distracted by these tasty, tasty nuggets. The ultimate thing is the economy or the ambient attribution agent.
I think what we're talking about with the nuggets, though, is a very parsimonious way of solving any problem, of which the economy is one of them. Attribution is, the biggest nugget problem. Is our biggest stuck is the attribution. So we're tooling up to be able to help us solve.
Yeah, all these tools are for that. All right, so the idea is I build the interface that we just laid out, which seems remarkably fucking simple in my head, honestly. I'm like, finally, I can ditch this whole behemoth of a thing. It'll be ugly as all hell, but the principles will be there. Um,
And then we can back into sugarification, but ideally, again, if the only interface was a state board and a voice interface, that would be so cool. Then you're getting into Star Trek level.
we're probably not far off that, actually, because the voice recognition is getting exceptionally good. And then if we couple that with basically context refinement bots, you should be able to say something, it get it wrong, it loops over it a bit. It's like, oh, he probably meant this. Oh no, well, look, he might have meant this. I'll try it anyway. And then it sort of comes back and gets it kind of as right as you'd ever expect it to do.
Right, and if it can't do it, then you got the whole stocks thing, and you got the
Yeah,
economy around it, and it's like,
yeah.
hey,
And at that
stop.
point, like, you don't need to type, you're just talking and poking or gesturing with a laser pointer or whatever else you've got.
Right.
Okay. Alright, man, that's starting to sound like home. It's starting to sound like home.
God, it'd be brilliant if we had this, like, even in 6 months' time. Can you imagine?
Yeah, so it won't.
Imagine, well, just as a bit of a rabbit hole,
Hmm.
given what we're saying about context switching, um, imagine if we get to the point where we're including what we've just described on one of these calls. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, right. You're just able to point at it because it's context. You're like that. What I said yesterday.
Yeah, or even talk to it. It's like, what did we talk about 3 weeks ago? Ah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like, you guys have just contradicted yourself. You're going
I
round in
know, it's
circles.
starting to
It's
feel
like,
like, yeah, with the things we just described and the architecture we just went over, it feels like we can have all those things. They won't be there on day one, but the architecture will support it with a bit of effort, with a bit of stucking, and with a bit of sort of polishing around, right? But it
right.
feels like that's the thing. It's so clean, so minimal, and it can do all these things.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So hot potato. Should we go and make that thing or what?
Well, that's the timing of that really is out of band of this discussion.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean,
I
it
don't know if
is
we're ready
pertinent.
to. Well, we don't have the tooling in place for hot potato, but
No, but as
we might.
soon as you do, you kind of need, like, when we have the interface we just described here, which includes social interaction, you should be able to start a group, add the hot potato agent, and be like, here's the Twitter credentials. This group is about.
Right. Everything that you've talked about, that are the leverage points or the points of interest of the hot potato, are covered in the architecture.
Right. And so you basically you pay for the service, you invite the hot potato into your group chat. It could be WhatsApp, it could be this thing, it could be whatever. And then you tell it what you want it to do, and it's like, yeah, I need Bob, Alice, and Sam to all say that that's what the Twitter post is going to be, and it needs to be unambiguous. So, you know, and then it's like, it's kind of good because it's like having a lawyer with you all the time that just forces it makes your WhatsApp group become a DAO.
Yeah.
Like, trivially, because now you don't need to worry about what's the user interface to the DAO. It's like, dude, you're in a group chat. You got group chat, right? And then you're chatting with Hot Potato, and Hot Potato will tell you when the thresholds have passed or not, and give you a veto chance and all that.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So should we make that company or not? Because it seems to me like that service will always be needed.
Yes, we should. The thing is the timing of it. I mean, it's not a great overhead to set up.
All I'm thinking of is just having some AI generated contracts that can allow us to hold our first hot potato, which is these incoming social creds. And then we're like, this is Hot Potato guarantees you that it looks after these things, and Hot Potato allows you to come into a chat and turn your chat into a DAO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't do any harm unless it takes away from time and work on producing this.
Yeah, it wouldn't do any harm so long as it doesn't take away from time and work. All right. Okay. Well, sounds like I'm pretty sure we should do it because you're always going to need a way for agents to touch out or, you know, do things, and they're always going to need that safeguard piece. Is going to be very valuable. Like, did this agent just do something really bad? Yes or no? But it's true for humans and for agents. So why not make a service that just deals with that when it does actions of consequence?
The only counter argument to that is, do we know what governance we need to bake into the vehicle on
I
day
think
one.
it's nah. I think it's just the governance of the vehicle doesn't matter at launch. What matters to people consuming the service is that they have legal recourse against the entity that holds the hot potato,
Yeah, that's true.
and it matters that they have. It matters that hot potato is disinterested in them. Like,
Well, yeah, yeah. I guess also, um, I mean, what we're really talking about by governance is articles of association, and
yeah,
articles of association can be changed.
yeah,
Uh, and if we just generate a vehicle, correct articles of association as good as we can get it for now,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'll
and we
change that when we
yeah,
back in, this stuff.
yeah,
So,
we'll make the
yeah,
articles of association. It'll have some fundamental principles that we want to offer and assure people of that I think we can get right straight away, and we can say that those articles will never change. But these other articles, such as like who's the hosting provider and blah 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 blah, and who's on the board of directors and what's the company structure and all that,
well,
like
yeah, yeah,
right.
absolutely. And
But we're
and those are
saying,
not
yeah,
really, yeah, those are not details for the articles of association. The
no,
articles of association really is the fundamentals, isn't it?
yeah,
And it should be
yeah,
as light as possible.
yeah, and then like a standard contract that people can enter into that is like this contract binds us to do as instructed with the hot
Yeah.
potato that you've given us.
So, in answer to your question, I think is really driven by the real world timeline of is there a window of opportunity here that if we take too long, if we delay creating that vehicle,
Mm.
is that going to mean that we're going to miss out?
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that people soon enough will make that because it sounds lucrative. Like it sounds like you'd easily pay like the amount of cost it would have for us would be very small, and you could just charge, you know, I don't know, 15, $20 a month, and people
oh,
would give us hot
oh, s-
potatoes.
sorry, mate. Someone's knocking at the door here. Can you
Oh,
give
okay.
me a sec?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so is, I mean, is it a good idea? Like, I'm sort of sitting here being like, it seems like a good idea.
I mean, it's what 1 or 2 hours to set up a company
Mm.
articles association. We can spin up as the kind of minimum baseline, um, and then in those articles of association we can include how we change governance, and then we can back in all of this.
Mm.
So what I was saying about the timeline being driven by circumstance is that okay? So there's this opportunity here, and if there is something that we can talk to about these guys saying, hey, this is what we're planning, and here's a real thin um, company that is to be backed into, and here's what we're going to try and do, then at least it has a home. Because if all these assets don't have a home yet, what they're going to do is like flopping around.
Yeah, but hot potato can't be the asset home because that's a different thing. Like the companies need to hold their own assets.
Oh no, well that would come down to the Articles of Association about what they actually do. I mean, it might just be hold it in trust, for example, or uh, they have
Well,
assets that.
yeah, hot
Sorry,
potato can't hold assets because that's a whole nother class of regulatory burden that we'd have to carry.
we'll take a DNS. So at the moment, DNS is like floating around.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
so that would go into the process which hot potato encapsulates.
Yeah, hot potato
Um,
deals with things like that.
right. And so this is what I was meaning. Trust is not the right legal term, but it is a place for them to stop it just floating around in the ether at the
Yeah,
moment.
it allows you to recommend the best practice for security for these critical hot potato pieces that every business has. And it allows some sophisticated, very low friction interaction to choose to do things with the hot potato, which can be passed on in plain text in a group chat with WhatsApp.
Right, and in that case, the company would be just effectively as a arbiter, as you guys are agreeing that here's where the DNS is,
Yeah, here's what the
and
name
you
servers point
guys,
to, right?
yeah, you guys exchange, whatever WhatsApp messages all up to contracts. Please don't go to contracts, but we're just going to be a witness to it.
Mm, yeah, and like it says
This is
real. It allows you to make the company configuration be the hot potato configuration can be programmatic. Like it starts out, it's like, well, I'm Bill, I'm opening the account, I'm passing on the hot potato. Hot potato takes the credentials, cycles them so that only hot potato has access, and then says, right, hot potato online. Bill, you're the only guy, you handed them in, so you got full control. What's the ground rules? Who can change who's allowed to do this and who's allowed to do that? And then the interface becomes natural language, as though there was a person holding the hot potato.
right. Yeah, yeah, and you've got real world grounding there.
Yeah,
Between one person, two, and a legal entity as a company.
yeah, it just seems
Um,
quite good because every company has these problems. I've
it's
never
like a
seen one
notary,
without it.
isn't it? It's like a notary almost.
Yeah, and
It's like
I think the closest legal term is that it's an authorized agent, or it's like they have power of attorney.
mm, yeah, but only as instructed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, whilst there are many places that we could expand this service out to and add additional offerings, I think Hot Potato is a very narrow introductory way that we can stand up a service that I think people need. The concept of gatekeeping actions of consequence, where it's any actions of consequence, could potentially be gatekeepered by Hot Potato. And it can be just one person, or it can be multiple people. Like, LLMs have a major safety issue because they hallucinate. And yet we can't stop using them. But if you had this paid service whose sole duty it was to make sure nothing crazy happens, then it allows you to use LLMs quite liberally and freely, and Hot Potato stops you doing anything dumb.
Yeah.
And it's independent, which it has to be. You cannot trust the devs to also iterate as well as make a safe system. Like, that's just,
Yeah,
that's
because
not
if it
fair.
goes wrong, who are you going to come after? Really, that's what they want.
Yeah.
With any transaction, well, not transaction, but any kind of agreement like that, it's like, well, what's my recourse if I'm unhappy? If I
Yeah.
get grumpy, where do I go?
Any actions of consequence, you want it to be checked. And
Yeah.
we can do it cheaper than a person.
I think it's a good thing. Anyway, I feel like I'm.
It is a good thing. I think the timeline is going to be driven by the hot potatoers. If it needs to be done earlier, then yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I don't think there's any harm in doing it, so long as
All
it
right.
doesn't distract.
All right. So I'm just gonna stop the recording now.